Hello and welcome to my channel Happy Hours. In my last video, I discussed about e-governance, about its objective and about the three models of e-governance. And there were two more models which we have to discuss. So in this video, I'm going to discuss about it and about the initiative for governance in India, where I will discuss about e-Kranti and about this focused area. And other initiatives also I'm going to discuss. I will discuss about the benefit of e-governance and the challenges faced by them. So what are we waiting for? Let's jump to the first topic, which is the fourth model of e-governance, which is named as e-advocacy or e-lobbying or e-mobilization. If you'll see this picture, we can understand who are the member of this. First member is community, then next is the network, and then the international people and the civil society. Many members are there and they're having the common goal. So by forming a group, they are going to achieve some of the common goal, or we can say they are going to influence each other to understand or to make a new change. It is the direct flow of information to build strong virtual allies to complement actions in the real world. Similar values and concerns, and these communities in turn link up with or support real life groups or the activities for concerned action. The model empowers global civil society by integrating virtual community input into real world decision making. The model advocates formation of virtual communities collaborating with the real life groups. The model accumulate ideas, expertise and resources through virtual networking, enabling collective action beyond the geographical or institutionalization constraints. We can understand this by an example, such as when we are having the change.org. This is the platform used by Indian citizens to create online petitions on various social and political issues, influencing policy debates and government actions. We can understood by some more example, like when the Indian Prime Minister visited the Lakshadweep. What was the reason? It was not his visit to Lakshadweep only. He was trying to motivate the tourism in Lakshadweep because India was facing a problem with Maldives. Next was we can understand when the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan was happening, it was the portrayal of cleanliness. So again, the social platform was used to increase the cleanliness on the faith of cleanliness. Next, we are having the interactive service model. If you see the service delivery model, there are the local government, national government, and even sometimes we are having the state government, and in between there is a citizen. All the citizen are in the dual means the two-way communication with all the government. This is the two-way communication, which was lagging behind in the last service model. Now, this model creates opportunity for direct participation in the governance processes, enhancing objectivity and transparency in decision making through the use of information and communication technology. Under this model, government services are made directly accessible to citizens in an interactive manner. It achieves this by establishing an interactive government to citizen to government channel across various governance. That this what we have understood through the picture. This enhances participation of resolution of grievances, sharing of concerns and expertise on various issues. We can understand this by an example, like we are having a machine called VVPAT. We all know what it is, and it is associated with EVM. When the person press the button, that means when the person is casting his vote, then there will be a sound of beep, and there will be a slip which will come out automatically from the box, and it will go inside the box automatically. This slip is being used by the election commission to verify the number of votes, or we can say to justify or to understand that there is no fault with the EVM. The votes were cast and the number of votes casted and the receipt of the bill, or we can say the small slips, is the same. By this they can make a tally. This, yes, there is no fault is. Then we are having the DG locker. What is the DG locker? Here this is the virtual locker, and there can be many government which are issued to us, and we can store our these documents in this locker. And whenever there is a need, and if suppose somebody is asking to see or those documents, we can import it from the DigiLocker. So there is the demand and supply, and this is the two-way communication. Now let us understand about the different initiatives for the e-governance in India. First of all, they did it first in the year 2006. It was taken up by the UPA government, where 41 mission mode projects were conceived to implement the technology enabled governance. The most important one of it was to connect the Gram Sabhas and the Gram Panchayats with internet. But in the year 2015, there was a change in the government. Now the UPA government, they lost their power, and the NDA government came to power. Now they introduced a new concept, or we can say a new platform, and that was e-Kranti with the version second, that was 2.0. There were 44 mission mode projects, and vision of e-Kranti was transferring e-governance for transferring governance. There were certain areas of it like which were focused by the e-Kranti, such as education. We can say e-education. Now all the schools will be connected through broadband. There will be a free Wi-Fi provided to all the secondary and higher secondary schools. Second point was that Pradhan Mantri Gramin Digital Saksharta Abhiyan was launched, which the aim make 6 crore people in rural India digitally literate. Means now the 6 crore people who are living in rural India were targeted, and they achieved also. Next one was the Swayam scheme. Swayam scheme was a massive online open course for the leveraging the e-education. It provides for a platform that facilitates hosting of all courses now in the classroom from the ninth till the post graduation, and it can be accessed by anyone from anywhere at any time. We might have seen there is a lack of transport and even the lack of classrooms, and because of that many of the people are left uneducated. To resolve this problem, these schemes were introduced, and through the portal Swayam scheme, we can say they were introducing all the courses online, and the people who can access it from anywhere and anytime. Next was the e-healthcare, and it could cover online medical consultation, online medical records, online medicine supply, pan India exchange of patient information, etc. Now we can understand this with an example, that is e-Sanjeevani. It has two specific portals. First is for the farmers and the other is for the doctor to doctor consultation. The first one is for the people to have the free consultation, or we can say with very less consultation fees, and next is to the doctor to doctor consultation. We can see that many a times we are discussing or the consulting different doctors, but suppose we are having the discussion with the doctors of the same hospitals, means like the chain hospitals, then there will be a number provided to your record, and these record can be shared through all the hospitals which are coming under that chain. So now the doctors will have the history of what are the reports you're having and what are the prescribed medicines, what is the current situation, what was the history of the patient. So by this, they were having the e healthcare department, e Sanjeevani portal. Next, we were having the farmers. This would facilitate farmers to get real time price information, online ordering of inputs and online cash, loan and relief payment with mobile banking. For this, we can understand that the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana was an yojana for the farmers, where whenever there was a disaster due to which a crop is destroyed, then if suppose that crop was under the insurance, then the farmers can claim for the loss, or we can say they can ask for the compensation. Whenever there is some situation, then there is a G tag provided by the authorized people to the farmers, and verification is also done by these authorized people, and after that only the compensations are paid. Next one is the security. Mobile based emergency services and disaster related services would be provided to citizens on the real time basis, so as to take precautionary measures in order to minimize loss of life and property. See, whenever there is a disaster, there is a pre-information to all the people who are living to that particular places, so that there will be a less loss of life, and even sometimes there is a less loss of property also. Next, we are having the topic of financial inclusion. It shall be strengthened using mobile banking, micro ATM programs, and the common service center to resolve the problem of e-divide. Government launched common service centers, the most innovative steps by the government in order to address e-divide. Means the people, they don't know what is exactly happening. And there is e-mitra, which is also known as the people who are going to help. There is a concept came into our scenario, that is micro ATM. Micro ATM, it is a mini version of an ATM, and they are like modified point of sales terminals. These terminal can connect to banking network via GPRS and to perform banking transaction. This machine contains card swipe facility, and these are Aadhaar authenticate, and the limit is rupees 2000, and this is for the rural areas people. Now next is the justice. Criminal justice system shall be tech enabled for simplifying the procedure of citizens for the citizens. For example, e-courts, e-prosecution, e-FIR, and e-jails, etc. Now, e-FIR is used. Suppose the people, they cannot go to the police station, because whenever there is a crime happened, we have to register an FIR. But there can be a situation when the people are unable to go to the police station, so they can do this through the online portal, that is e-FIR. And next is e-jails. This is for the records and the documentation. It is not any kind of jail, but the people who are under prosecution, or we can say those who are under trial, their information is provided in this portal. Next is the planning. National GIS Mission Mode project would be implemented to facilitate GIS based decisions for planning, conceptualization, design, and development. Now, what does GIS stand for? It stands for Geographical Identification System. Now, let us proceed with the other initiatives for the e-governance in India. First is the Common Service Center. We have came across this topic before also, and in India there has been 5.31 lakh common service centers which are functional. Next is Umang. With the full form of Umang is Unified Mobile Application for New Age Governance. It is for providing government service to citizens through mobile, and more than 1500 government services and 22,000 bill payment services are made available through the Umang app. E-District Mission Mode of Project. It has been implemented at district and sub-district level for all the states and union territories, benefiting citizens by delivering various e-governance services such as certificates, land records, consumer court, commercial tax, etc. Presently, there are 4,671 e-services have been launched in various districts across India. Next initiative is MyGov. It is the citizen engagement platform developed to facilitate participatory governance. Meri Pehchan. It is a national single sign on platform that was launched in the year 2022. It is to provide citizens ease of access to government portal. Another initiative is DBT. The full form of DBT is Direct Benefit Transfer. 315 schemes across 53 ministries are offering Aadhaar enabled DBT to citizens. So far, 30 lakh crores have been transferred from DBT platform. It was a direct transfer. Next, we are having DG Locker, as I have mentioned before. It is to facilitate paperless availability of public document, and DigiLocker has more than 11.7 crore users and more than 532 crore documents made available. There are some more which are UID and UPI also. Now let us understand the benefits of e-governance. It is in two modes. First is the administrative development and the other in the development administration. Now what is the meaning of administrative development? In general term, we can say how the administrations get benefit from government. It improves decision making because of data driven governance. For example, use of MIS. MIS is Management Information System. Decision making become easy and prompt because they are using information and communication technology, because it is having a capacity to eliminate hierarchy. Next benefit is that the automation of administrative process started, and there is an efficiency, and it is going to improve the quality of service, which means responsive. Now the government is more responsive. Next is the next benefit, that is the development administration, and which means how the citizens are getting benefit from e-governance. Now it enhances transparency and accountability, which I have discussed already. Next is the example of it expands the reach of governance, it improves public service delivery, it enables an environment promoting economic development, and by this it is going to empower everyone. Now let us discuss about the last topic for today, and that is the challenges of e-governance. The first one is digital illiteracy. Even though we all are literate, many of us are digitally illiterate. It is not the case of rural. Even the people who are residing in urban areas, they are also having the same issues. So still there is the lack of connectivity due to the digital illiteracy, or we can say many people are not able to use the e-governance. Next is linguistic barrier. There are many people who cannot understand Hindi or English, which is the most common language for the any document. So due to the diversity in languages, in the rural area especially, they are unable to understand any of this language, so they are not able to access to the e-government. Even though they access, they are unable to understand what is being written. So that's why The basic problem is there, that is the language problem. Next and the last one is the authentication and privacy issue. E-governance can raise privacy problem as the citizens provide their financial and social data which is subject to misuse. Citizens are also dissatisfied with the level of security offered by the government. We have found many times of fraud through the digital media. So this is also another challenge by the government if we are using the e-governance. So by this, I am concluding my video, and if you find my video useful, kindly like, share and subscribe. Thank you.